Hello everybody, thank you for joining us today at Easterling Customs. Today we'll be doing a teardown of an Acer Aspire E11 ES1 111M C40S. Runs on 2 GB DDR3 RAM, Intel HD graphics. It's got an Intel Celeron processor, dual core. It's not much, not anything in particular, nothing gaming, or probably barely do streaming, honestly. But we're going to start by taking these 13 screws out. I've already started on it, so we're already 75% the way through removing the bottom cover. You guys need to stay tuned for upcoming videos. Leave us a comment, tell us what you think. We'll be building a custom Surface Pro 4. We've got a Omen 880 with a Ryzen 5 GT 1030 video card, NVIDIA. And we will be overclocking that. We will turn a Surface Pro into a custom desktop PC, which you can take on the road with you. And we are building a custom platform for anybody wanting to rebuild older laptops, making a display. That way everybody gets a good view of older technology and how it works. As you can see here, we've got our hard drive, we've got our processor. In this case it is a dual core. We've got 4 GB of DDR3 RAM, we got Wi-Fi, and they call this liquid cooling, but in my honest opinion it's a sad attempt of liquid cooling. These heat tubes are filled with an oil that as they heat, the steam will travel and be cooled by this fan. I'm sorry, but if it's me and I'm going to say it's water cooled, I'm going to have a custom water block. I'm going to have another custom water block to keep my RAM cool, which really we don't have to worry about on a laptop because they don't really draw that much juice. But we will get into that in a later video. Back to the Acer. Let's see what we got here. What is holding us still in place? Sorry guys, I had to step away for a moment. As you can see, we just got all our screws out. We are now taking our knife or spud bar or any basic pry tool. I prefer metal. They don't give as much. But when it comes to plastic, where they flex, you can end up putting a lot more pressure on something that you don't really want to, and possibly break it. In this case, this poor attempt of a laptop that can barely even play YouTube videos, according to the owner. He's had an issue with this fanless PC that the battery goes dead 5 minutes after it being turned on. So we're going to see just what the issue is. This battery right here. We got our motherboard here. We got HDMI out. We got 3.1, USB 1. We have LAN. We've got our power adapter, and we've got our Wi-Fi module. Let's go ahead and get this battery out of here. Some of these screws like to stick in place and not want to come out. They can be a headache sometimes. Now, before you attempt to tear down any PC, laptop, make sure, one, you have an anti-static bracelet or wristband on. Two, that your device is unplugged. In this case, where it's a laptop, obviously we're not plugged into the wall, but we have a constant power source here. Now, if I was to drop a screw or drop my knife, a screwdriver, anything on any of these little terminals here, we can cause a short, and the computer will possibly never work again. Not without a board replacement, anyways. What we are going to do is we are going to go ahead and disconnect our battery from the motherboard. All you gotta do, a little pull on each side of our terminal here, and it will pop free, and we will swing it away. Now, we will continue removing the rest of our retaining screws. Especially the ones that don't want to come out in the first place. Try and keep your screws organized where you know which screw came from what screw hole. A lot of the times, most of the screws will be very similar, if not the same. However, some screws will be longer than others. So if you go to throw a longer screw into, say, this slot here holding the motherboard down, when it goes through the other side and we finally start torquing it down, that screw will either lift the board or push on a component on the other side of the board that we don't want it making contact with. Always make sure you're putting the right screw in the right hole. We take pride in our projects, doing them properly the first time, and teaching others how they can do this themselves, so you're not going to a big box store, getting ripped off, or let's use Apple as an example. We go in with a MacBook Pro, and we tell them, well, our logic board needs replaced, or our RAM that's soldered on has malfunctioned. Now, Apple makes this product, and they wouldn't sell it for the amount that they do if they couldn't purchase every component inside that device, whether it be a PC, a MacBook, a Mac Air, iPad, iPhone. They will try to use the excuse that it will cost more for you to buy one or two components to rebuild your PC yourself. But they would prefer you to go out, trash the PC, start over, pay another $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 to get another PC. Now, if the PCs cost more to manufacture than what they are selling them for, Apple would have been bankrupt years ago. They are obviously able to get these parts at a discounted rate to be able to build their PCs and their iPhones and whatever other devices they are manufacturing at this exact moment and release them. It is a false statement to ever hear that it will cost more to rebuild your device than to buy a new one. The companies would not be able to make a profit if that was the reason. We've got a couple of retaining plates here that hold the battery in place. We're going to go ahead and get these out of their way. That way we can get access to, you see our trackpad here. I'm assuming since our Wi-Fi chip's here, our display here is here, our trackpad plugs in here. These are our speakers on both sides. So I'm assuming that our, well, in this case, probably a flash device, either an SSD or SD card or something of that nature, flash storage in general, that this isn't going to have a hard drive. Rather, either an SD card or a chip soldered on the board. One more screw up here. Now, I know you probably can't see this from the angle. I promise you our videos will get better in the future as we get better cameras and I get more assistance to film, and I get some comments on what you really want to see. What do you want to learn? Then we can start getting videos out that you, the people, want to see. Let's go ahead and unplug our, well, our left speaker, since this is upside down. Okay. Looks like it's still attached though. This one runs directly behind the trackpad and over to this speaker. So this is both the left and the right speaker input. Now, we'll remove the screw on the Wi-Fi card. Slide the Wi-Fi card out. This appears to be an M key. Now, if you can get an SSD, that's the M key, and you have access to Ethernet cable, then you can just run a wired Ethernet connection, do away with your Wi-Fi here, and put you an SSD in there. At least then you'd have a little more storage than the possibly chip soldered on the board. And I think the limitation is possibly 32 gig, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Hard drive is 32 gig, so it is going to be a flash device. Now, where is it located? Now we're going to pull our trackpad. Now, these clips here, the white ones, you will notice they've got a tooth on each side, and you can get in there with your knife, preferably something soft. You don't want to apply a lot of pressure, and this will lift up. As it lifts straight up, the ribbon will slide out, releasing your trackpad. Now I'm going to go ahead and push this back down so I don't have to worry about anything getting in there and bending those pins. As for the motherboard, seems to be released. We have a display holding us in place, and we have our keyboard holding us in place. Keyboard has been removed, and here's our board. Here's our RAM, which can be changed. It looks like it's DDR2. Still got the Cosmos battery. Our CPU and graphics card soldered together on the same board. Integrated graphics. And we got another heat tube here to pass the heat along. I do not like the idea that there is no fan in this PC. This might only be a dual core PC, it might be a mobile processor, but it will still get hot, especially if you have the openings for airflow blocked. Now I was really hoping to be able to get to the flash storage and possibly be able to upgrade it to a larger drive, but it's not looking like that's going to be accessible. Personal opinion, I would like to remove the card slot here, cut this opening out, run a small hard line copper tubing in, and then run it directly across where this heat tube is in place, and run it out the other side. And where I have all this open compartment over here, take another laptop fan, cut the hole in the bottom so I can get some airflow into this device. I would like to find somebody with more of the CPU information to possibly get some unlocked drivers to overclock the video and the processor just slightly so I can get streaming through Hulu or Netflix, whatever you would prefer. But it does not look like that's going to happen. So, since there was nothing wrong with this board, and we are not upgrading our RAM, I was kind of wondering if this RAM might have been a combination of storage and RAM itself, but it's looking like it's just regular RAM. Looks like Kingston memory. Now we will replace the RAM. We will put our M key back in. Make sure we got everything in place and out of the way. We will pull our keyboard ribbon back around and we will slide it back in place. First, we need to open that and allow our ribbon in place. Now that our ribbon's in, we just push here and push on this side, and then it's closed and our ribbon is secure. Now, get these lined up. Get down in there. Now I want to go ahead and get this retaining screw from my Wi-Fi card so it's not flopping up and down, and I can begin to re-secure this motherboard. There. Now, I'm going to reattach my trackpad. If you didn't notice, this slid off that time, came completely out. And what we're going to do is we're just going to line this up and slowly pop it back in place. No harm, no foul. Now, I'm going to slide our trackpad ribbon back up into its port very gently so you don't push any pressure on any pins. And then clip and push check to see if it's secure. Okay. Now, I will reattach these speakers. Since the only thing we was replacing in this particular laptop was our battery, which I haven't tested anything about it yet, but I've had enough experience with these particular batteries to know that they're very good at burning cells. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test for any current flow through this battery and to see if it dips below the rating in which it should be. I'm getting results, but definitely not what I was expecting to get. I was expecting to at least hit one terminal where it would tell me the correct voltage, or at least somewhere in that ballpark of this battery, which in this case would be 11.25 volts. There's a DC current, which is what I was testing for. Looks like it can handle up to 12.9 volts max operation. So I'm pretty convinced that this is our issue here. So I'm going to set that off to the side. I'm going to continue reassembling our board. It's always great, best thing that could ever happen to you when you're working on a computer with these microscopic screws and then you drop one or two or all of them. That's a very, very, very bad time. It's hard enough to try to find one and make sure that you're putting them back in the same port they just came out of. I laid mine in the exact formation as I took them out. I laid them top down in the same pattern that they was laid out on the board. Actually, I think I have a little issue. Let's see here. I believe that the screw holes on my board, that one, and that one, and that one, and that one, are all in the back panel. So this one, these two. That's what I thought. I knew that was out of place. Let's see. Not that one, not that one. I got that one. That one, that one, that one. So this one. So it looks like this is the last screw that holds our motherboard in place. don't do what I'm doing. Don't lay your hand on the board like I just did. If you're sweating, the moisture can lay on the circuits. You not even notice. Plug it in, blow a capacitor or a transistor. Not a good time. It is horrible when you're taking a PC apart to replace a USB port, a charging port, keyboard, one of the ribbons inside the PC, maybe a bad connection, and then that $20, $30 item that you're replacing, or in this case, $100 item, which I even told the owner, I don't know why you want to buy a $100 battery to put back into this when the PC, when it came out, was only $200. So by now, with the way prices drop over the years, he could have went out and bought a brand new one for the same price that he's going to buy a battery. I didn't understand that. If it was me, I'd do away with the PC altogether. I'd take this board, I'd make a custom enclosure, and I mean, this is your Raspberry Pi right here. You want a Raspberry Pi, you don't have the 40-pin header, and you can't do the projects that they do with the Raspberry Pis. But if you was able to build an enclosure, which is very, very easy anymore, especially with 3D printing, you've got a 4-inch wide board, you've got 6 inches long, you've got your HDMI, full-size HDMI, you got your USB 3.1, you got your USB 2.1, you got your LAN, you got your power, and you got your Wi-Fi, all of which can fit into one little box. Then you could go back on the other side, what I was complaining about earlier with these fanless PCs, which, I mean, yes, they are 100% correct. There definitely is no fan in this PC. But we all know how thermals work. We know that when a chip has power, it heats up. When you put it under load, it's going to get hotter. When you are bench testing or stressing or playing a game or streaming 4K video, you are stressing the chip. It's going to get hot. The Surface Pros, I can't vouch for the 1, 2, or 3, but the Surface Pro 4, 5, and 6, 7, they have the same heat pipe setup, but instead of it being one pipe across 2 chips, the GPU and the CPU, they have 3, and it goes the whole length around the outside of the device to another fan to pull all that heat out. Now, I had the issue, I loved my Surface Pro 4, and this is before I got my gaming PC. I had a couple of different PCs, I still have several PCs, but they are just not capable of doing what I need them to do. So, I admit, I overclocked the 6300U that's in the Surface Pro 4s. Mine is the 1 terabyte version with the 8 gigabytes of RAM, the i5 6300U. Very good device. Love it. It's fast. It comes with Windows 10 Pro. You can run virtual machines on it. It runs them flawlessly. This computer has resources for days. And if you want to, well, I can't, not way my device is set up at the moment, but you could run dual monitor setup, run one monitor Windows, the other monitor Linux, Mac, whatever you wanted. You could dual boot it. I dual booted mine. I ran Windows 10. I'm an insider, so I always had the newest updates. I ran my Windows 10 Pro on the Surface Pro, and I had it dual booted with Ubuntu 18.04, which is Bionic Beaver if I'm not mistaken. And I added the Kali Linux repositories. That way I had all my pen testing tools and really anything that I could possibly need. One monitor, one PC, one monitor, the other PC. As long as you got a USB hub, you can run two mice, 2 keyboards. You have 2 computers in one. You gotta go to the hospital or go meet somebody, or you're doing a promotion somewhere. You grab the Surface Pro, it literally weighs 2 pounds, you throw it in your bag, you get on the road, and right back at it again. I've always loved the Surface devices. However, they may be advertised as high performance PCs, or as Microsoft is good about saying, they are, what's the term they use? Ultra high performance tablet PCs. That's the terms they use. Anyway, they can run games. I ran Skyrim Game of the Year. I've ran Battlefield 4. I've CS:GO. I played quite a few different games on my Surface Pro. Witcher 2. It seemed like any game that I wanted to throw at it, it could handle. Not only that, but I could be gaming on my internal display and streaming 4K video off of Hulu on my other display, which is normally my 56-inch flat screen, my LCD. Now, I did run into some issues where it lagged a little bit sometimes, so I thought I'd get slick and I'd overclock the voltage and the multipliers for my CPU and push it a little further and overclock the graphics card just slightly so I can get a bigger gain out of my gamings and really be able to have better quality videos. Well, there's a lot, and I mean a lot, of registry hacks that you have to do on the Surface Pro to be able to overclock it. So the 6300U CPU is a locked down CPU. Now, I did get custom BIOS. I did get custom drivers. I did do a lot of modifications to my registry, which, if you haven't noticed, if you have a Surface Pro, if you go into your control panel and go to your power options or your battery options, you'll notice that there's no options. It literally says balanced, that's it. Well, if you look in your registry and you look at the registry on a normal desktop Windows 10 PC, you can find the differences in the registry. The Surface Pro has a specific registry setup that locks the voltage and the multipliers for the CPU and GPU. If you can get the software and you can make the correct modifications to your registry, you can overclock the Surface Pro. However, as soon as I get this back together, I will show you why you do not overclock the Surface Pro. If you do, it will be the biggest mistake of your life. I never went anywhere without my Surface Pro. Loved it. My favorite device next to my Omen gaming PC. I'm just going to put one screw in every corner. Well, actually, I'm pretty sure that I just left a couple screws undone in here. Big mistake.